have you here because we have the founder of Yo Soy Candles with us, Leslie Abrams. We are thrilled to have her here and to hear all about her business journey, especially if you are a product producer, a physical product producer. This is going to be really juicy. So Leslie was awarded a WINC scholarship in the fall of 2017. So we had the pleasure of working with you then, and we are so thrilled to hear that in the 2 years after the program, you doubled your business's revenue, no small thing, and you hit 6 figures in 2019, and you've just continued to grow financially since. But perhaps as important, you have also been more profitable. And so you've been getting a raise and year-end bonuses as your CEO of your company. It's so exciting, Leslie. Thank you for being here with us.
Yes, I'm so honored to be here, excited to be here with you, Micah, and everyone else in WINC, and so grateful to have received the scholarship back in 2017, because I've learned so much since then, and I just continue to learn and grow as my business grows with me. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. So let's talk about this from the beginning. Like, how did you become a candle maker? Like, what was that like? What led you to this business? And tell us about that journey.
Okay, well, I always say this is a cool story, and I've tried to like trim down the fat a little bit on it because it is such an interesting story. But I always say that, Yo Soy found me rather than me finding it. And it was like this poke, it was like poking me for 1 to 2 years. And it was like, no, you need to be doing this. I even had a psychic tell me that I needed to be doing this, which is a really cool story. I'll throw it in there. So back in 2010, I was working as an esthetician, mostly Brazilian waxing, odd enough. And I was 27 years old, 28 years old. And I was just working my booty off and just hitting a ceiling, just getting like burned out and really tired, and having these thoughts like, is this it for me? Is this just what I do every day and indefinitely? And I was really into yoga at the time, and I kind of made a proposition to my boss in the summer of 2010. And I was like, okay, I found this yoga teacher training program in Costa Rica, and it's for a month, and I really want to do it. And the only way I can go is if I either quit my job or ask my boss for a raise and ask her if I can go. So I asked her for a raise. She said no. And I'd been there for 2 years at that point, no increase of revenue whatsoever. And she said no. So I was like, okay, I'm going. And I quit my job. I was so connected to a lot of my waxing clients that I told them I was leaving and making a little waxing studio in my home when I come back. And 100 of my clients followed me on this journey, right? So I quit my job. Costa Rica yoga teacher training changed my life. I came back, had this yoga training under my belt, started waxing from home, and I was able to start teaching as well. So it was around Christmas time when I got back, and I really wanted to thank my clients, like 100 of them, with something special. And I was like, how do I gift 100 people without breaking the bank, So I bought a candle making kit. And I made 100 of those like little 2-ounce tin candles. And I gifted all of them and gave them a little special note. And a month goes by, a few weeks goes by, and my clients, every time I see them, they're like, Leslie, where can I get another one of those candles? And I was like, oh, that was just, a one-time thing. And for months and months on end, clients kept on saying, I really want another candle. And I was like, I'm not starting a third business. Like, no, absolutely not. It was just a one-time thing. And they did. They turned out really, really good. So fast forward March 2011, I was having a really tough year because this yoga teacher training changed my life. It actually changed my whole entire lifestyle and my friends, relationships, everything. And I was feeling really confused. And it was around my birthday in March, and I had been going through a breakup as well. And I went to this intuitive that two of my clients told me about. And I'm sitting with her. She was very expensive. I had to drive out to the suburbs, and I was like, this lady better be good, you know? And when I walked in, she was just like long nails, like colors in her hair, like very stereotypical psychic lady. And she was like, okay, so you're doing this Brazilian waxing thing and you're teaching yoga, Brazilian waxing and yoga. So those two are going to come together to make a third business. And she's like doing this with her hands, I remember. And she's like, yoga and waxing come together to make a third business. And she was like, honey, that's all I got. And I was like, what is she talking about? You know? And this time, like the yoga, the candle making was like way back there. Like it wasn't really a thing on my radar, you know, besides my clients being like, oh, these candles are great, you know. So, you know, a whole year goes by since I made those candles, and I ended up meeting kind of my first spiritual friend. And she asked me to teach her how to make candles because she wanted to make Christmas gifts. And her candles turned out like even more amazing. And we just dove in, got all these like cool fragrance oils. And she was like, we should start a business. And I was like, I already have a name. And, you know, at the time when my clients were like poking me, I was like, I got on my Microsoft Word and was like, Yosoi, 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 using all these fonts, and Yosoi just flowed out of me. And when I told my ex-business partner about this, she was like, oh, you mean like I am? And I was like, yeah, like I am. And at the time I was using a lot of affirmations and intentions with my yoga teaching and practice and my personal journey as well. And it just kind of all came together with that. And I started Yosoi at the beginning of 2012 with my ex-partner Adair, who is a dear friend of mine. We just kind of broke away in about 2015 from each other in the business. And from then on, I just kind of took it and ran. And in 2016, it became my full-time job when I moved to Portland with my husband. So I've been full-time with Yosoi for almost 5 years now. And before that, yay. And before that, it was like side gig and side gig. So I wasn't fully focused on it, but I saw all of this amazing potential, you know, but there was stuff holding me back, you know, like other careers and business partner and everything. Yeah. So that's in a nutshell, the story of Yosoi.
Oh, Leslie, so incredible. I've never heard this story before. So I'm completely riveted. Completely riveted. I love this.
It's wild. Yeah.
Amazing. And so there you are. You've been in business a few years. And by the way, congratulations for being in business 5 years. It's such a big deal.
Thank you.
Such
Thank
a big
you.
deal. And so, you know, come 2017, where were you at in your business then? What was it like? What were you struggling with? What was working? What wasn't working?
Yeah, so in 2016, when I linked up with WINC, I had been about a year in Portland. So I came from Atlanta, and totally two different sides of the country, two totally different cities, like just a very different vibe on how people, you know, I would say that even though I was in the yoga community in Atlanta, that spiritual communities in Atlanta were such a niche, you know, it wasn't like this majority like it is here in Portland, you know? So people were having a hard time understanding the I am element, the self-empowering, self-connected, transformative healing element to Yosoi. So when we got to Portland in 2017, and I remember sitting in the WINC program and having a really hard time communicating that piece to my customers, and so much to where I was questioning if I was still aligned to it and if it even mattered, you know? And if anybody knows anything about the city Portland, people here are like really just hardcore and diehard, like who they support. And so I'm this girl who comes out of nowhere with her candles, and I'm like setting up at little street fairs, and people are like, who the hell are you? Like, where did you come from? You know? So you have to build some trust here for people to, you know, like you and trust your product and enough to give you money, you know, consistently. And I was struggling with that part too. I was like, no one here knows me. I just am still working with my Atlanta people, which is great, but like I'm in this city where no one knows who I am, no one knows my product, therefore they can't trust my product. So I think I was feeling a little lost there. And then also this disconnect between me and my customers, and me and my mission, you know, and therefore a disconnect between my customers and my mission.
Mm. Amazing. And tell me, when you like when you were starting with your mission, I am, what was that for you? And so then at this point, what you were starting to be like, is this still landing? Is it translating? How do I connect what matters to me to my customer, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think in Atlanta, so our initial brand at the very, very start was I am blank. So people got to fill in their I am statement, and no one understood that. And I think that it was a combo of us not branding and marketing it, you know, in a way where people can understand it. And also just being in a city where people were like, yeah, I don't know what you mean by I am blank, you know? So I think there was a combo of both. And for me and my partner at the time, you know, a lot of my practice, you know, I had morning rituals. So I am is about a ritual, and it's about planting this seed, setting this intention of how you want to show up for your day, and what you want to embody for your day, right? So that's what it meant for me. And then when I was starting to teach yoga and take off on that career, which I ended up teaching yoga for about 7 years full time, I started every single class off with, what do you want to feel more of during this class? And make it one word or one phrase. And so all of that was tied into what I was creating with Yosoi as well. And so when I moved to Portland, I was practicing yoga here and there, but it wasn't my full-time job anymore. So I think something was being lost. And I think just the busyness of being in a new city and getting my footing there, and also going through so much in Atlanta with like, I really don't think people care about the I am part. I think they just care about the candle part. And I'm cool with that. As long as people are like buying my candles, that's cool. And I kind of just brushed it off, you know? And then coming to WINC, I was like, no, this is what makes Yosoi different and special from other candle companies. There is this empowerment piece that other candle companies don't do. So I need to find a way to connect it, because all in all, like I am still really connected to that. I still wake up every morning. I'm like, what do I want to feel today? You know, how do I want to show up? What do I want to feel? What do I want to receive? You know? So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I think this is so great. So just riffing for a moment, you know, one of the things I was noticing, you know, because I sent you a list of questions, and you know, I was reading through your responses, and this was a big thing that really stood out. And you know, one of the, you know, we have this 4-part system, and you said of the 4 parts, product development was one of the biggest differences in your engine, right, in our program. And I think we're kind of in that place. And so a lot of times I talk to women about how important product development is, and that we think we know what we're selling, but we actually often don't know what we're selling. And this is especially confusing to physical product producers, because they're like, no, I definitely know what I'm selling, right? Like, you definitely knew that you were selling candles. But part of product development is translating like the soul of your business and the soul of you. There's like this translation for how it matters to our customer. And there's business skills that actually support us in understanding how to make that translation. And then there's this like really mystical, magical part that makes it so that our deep mission actually lands with our customers, such that when they buy it, that we actually get to have the impact that we're trying to make.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is you came in and you were like, I know what my mission is, like it's here, but something is missing between what I know Yosei Candle is about and how I'm talking about it with people and who's buying it. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. And I will add in that I have this memory of, as talking about target market, I was like, my target market is anybody who likes candles. That's a big, broad market, which turns out is not true. It's like, yeah, sure, that's great. But also I can really narrow it down and make things a lot easier on myself and the way I attract my customers. If I get those customers who are like affirmations and intention and empowerment, hell yes,
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. The soul that comes through is this extra layer that really narrows down our market to where we can speak to and communicate to them a lot easier.
Totally. And it's so counterintuitive. It's like, wait, I want to grow my business, so I'm going to narrow who I sell to. Like, it doesn't make sense on the front end. But once you get in there and you get a lot more specific about who you really made this for and how much you love the person who loves this, and there's like such a deep connection there, it becomes so much more potent of a relationship between your business and that person, because your business is like designed for them. And they're like, oh my gosh, I am in love with this. And they resonate so deeply that they come back again and again and they tell all their friends. And it's a whole different relationship.
Absolutely. And then they just throw their money at you because they're like, I need more of this. And then you get to build a deeper relationship with them. I see it happen all the time. And, a lot of these customers, now that I have a shop, I get to meet some of them in person. But a lot of these customers, I just see their names online, and then finally I'm like, I just send them a personal note. I'm like, hey, I am just so appreciative of you and all your business. And then they tell me their story. Like it leads to connection and deeper communication and deeper gratitude and all these beautiful things that come with a relationship.
So cool, Leslie.
Yeah.
So cool.
Thanks.
So product development was a big piece for you in terms of translating how your mission got translated in talking to your customers and connecting with them. One of the other things that you talked about in the questionnaire I sent over was that one of the 6 barriers to wealth, it was like the big barrier for you that transformed was around marketing. Is there anything you want to share about marketing specifically? Because for most women, it's like, this is this totally mysterious domain.
Yeah. And there is still a lot of mystery around it. And what I know about myself is I don't really work in a traditional way. So it's like, I think nowadays we think about marketing and we're like, oh, social media, like that's almost like the first thing, or email newsletters, those are the first things that come to mind, at least for me. And all those things like gave me like ick factors. Like I was like, oh, I'm not good at that. I don't want to do it. I don't want to give up my time. I don't want to be obsessed with my computer screen or phone screen. So there has to be this other creative way of doing it that feels good to me and authentic. Even though I'm still figuring a lot of that out in a way, I think I actually found a path to it. And I think so. Something I've noticed with a lot of people when I work markets and stuff is everyone turns the candle over to the bottom. So that bottom, whatever goes on the bottom of the candle is very important. And so I was getting freaked out that people were throwing away their caps because some people told me they'd thrown away their caps, which is like mind blowing to me, but they're doing it, So I'm like, okay, if they throw away their cap and totally lose like my website that's on the cap, the scent, the logo, everything connected to my business is on the cap, then all they have is this candle that's like a mystery of where they got it. Mm-hmm. So my husband, who's my graphic designer as well, like great partnership, lucky me. He created this warning label that needs to go on the bottom of every candle that actually has my logo, website, all of the ingredients, made in Portland, you know, all of the stuff that I want customers to know. So if they lose their cap or if they ditch it, then they have that.
Yeah.
So that I would categorize as a marketing piece, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah. So one other thing too is making a really nice postcard. So this is something I created like directly off of WINC that explain the I am, you know, Yosoi equals I am, 2 empowering words that create your reality. Talked about all the ingredients, had 10% off, yada yada, the whole bit. And then I realized, oh my gosh, people are probably throwing this in the trash, or hopefully they're recycling it. But I kind of got crazy thinking about how much trash I'm creating because of that postcard, you know? And also how many people are not reading it because I put a 10% code on there and a lot of people didn't use it. So that made me think that people were just trashing it and not reading it. So recently, probably within the last 6 months, I actually ditched the postcard and created a bookmark so people can keep it and hopefully put it in a book. And while they're reading their book, they light their candle. It's like this whole ritual experience. And on the bookmark, there's even a place to write your own I am statement. It's like, I am blank. And then it has a little like tips to creating a beautiful ritual for yourself on it. So it's more interactive. And hopefully people are really enjoying that. So having these pieces of marketing that are more aligned to the product rather than just a piece of trash. And, you know, when they put it in their book, I realize this because I have this bookmark from a coffee shop I go to and I stare at it every single night. I see it every night. So it's like, oh, wow, that's like a really good reminder of like, oh, don't forget about your Yosoi, you know, because it's in your book. So yeah.
So beautiful. I love what your story is really illuminating an example of how deeply connected product development and marketing actually are, right? So like your product development is your product is a candle, but there's actually a lot of other layers that go along with that around the ritual piece and the impact that you're having through your candle and the impact that people are receiving in their life. It's more than a candle, right? And so you found ways to bring that part of your product alive. And then your marketing is like they're very connected. And I love how your story is like, when we really start to get the soul of our mission and our business and translate it into our offering and learn how to talk about it and write about it in a way that really brings it all alive for someone and creates real results in their life, at that point, our marketing can be really creative, right? You found a way to make your marketing really creative and actually make your product have more results and for your business to have more sales, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like your marketing is actually serving your customer.
Yeah.
They've got a great bookmark. They're being reminded to have their ritual, right? Like they see their I am statement and like, so it's like, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
Thanks. I feel that.
So beautiful. So let's talk about Yosoi Candle even more. Like you just opened a store.
Yeah, I did.
Of 2020 where like COVID is happening. Like what's that been like?
Yeah, it's insane. I know. And I want to just, you know, throw back that, and I was talking to my husband about this during breakfast this morning, actually. He was like, you said you never wanted to open a store. And I still don't look at this space as a store because it's true. I never wanted to run a store because one of my biggest fears is like my career taking away my freedom. Like, don't ever want anyone take away my freedom, you know? And I was like, I don't want to be in the retail business and, you know, stuck at this space that I just have to be there, have to be open. So we opened September 23rd. It was the week where the fires were really bad in Oregon and in California and Colorado and all around that. So smoke-filled skies, wearing an extra big mask. It was insane. It was like, wow, should I be doing this right now? Is this okay? But it felt actually good to get out of the house because we were stuck in there for a week. Anyways, besides all that, it was something that I started thinking about a year ago with these two other makers in Portland here who are dear friends of mine. And we started looking for a space at probably December last year, so a year ago. And it was really, really hard. Every place wanted like a 5-year lease, throw down a bunch of money, huge build out, kind of, dingy and a lot of work to do and business plan. And it just felt like a headache. It was very much like, this doesn't feel good. It feels really hard. So, fast forward a couple of months, COVID hits, and we kind of throw the idea wayside. And I was really, I mentioned this in the questionnaire. I feel like, and this is my third business, and with each of my businesses, I felt like I almost created my own hamster wheel, and been like, oh, it's great. I'm teaching yoga and barefoot and wearing a sports bra all day, but like, it still feels like work. And I wanted to change that with Yosoi, but I seem to have gotten on the same path of like, I'm just in my basement covered in wax, like not talking to other humans for days on end, and like just packaging boxes, packing peanuts. Like, is this really my life? Like, is this what I'm doing? And I started getting really confused about it and thinking that Yosoi was going to end sometime soon. And this is probably about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And I started thinking about, my superpowers and what really lights me up on a daily basis. And that's connecting with people and building community, and also seeing before my eyes people transforming, which is something I got out of teaching yoga. And so with all of that information, about a year and a half ago in 2019, I came up with a workshop called Self-Discovery Through Candle Making. And it really soared. It was a combo of candle making and meditation, visualization, and journaling and conversation. And it blew up, Micah. Like last year was, it was incredible. And so there were some logistical things and money things that were kind of rubbing me wrong. And I worked it out at the end of last year. And then the beginning of this year, January through March specifically, up until the pandemic, I was getting paid what I really wanted and felt like I was worthy of getting paid for these workshops, which I'm happy to share that number if you need. But it was like kind of this like, holy crap, I can do this, Then the pandemic hit and it all just kind of went away. I was like, wow, here I am again in my basement, covered in wax. Here I am, just put all that on hold. And this has been a year of accepting what is, right? Because we've lost control over a lot of things that we used to be able to do freely, right? So what ended up happening is in August, and I'll try to shorten the story a little bit. So, this is like a story of manifestation 100%. So last January, I taught a workshop at this tea shop called the Jasmine Pearl Tea. And they had this beautiful little tasting room that the first time I saw, I was just like, oh, what, this place is gorgeous. The windows, like everything about it. This is what I want my shop to be, right? Fast forward, taught my workshop. It was amazing. Fast forward to August, just a few months ago, I link up with the girl who manages the Jasmine Pearl. She's a friend of mine. And she tells me that their company downsized because of the pandemic and they got rid of the tasting room. So it's open. And we're just like at the same brunch together. We're having like this little brunch outside at our mutual friend's house. And I was like, wait a second. And it's so like you're saying it's available. And she was like, oh my gosh, you were looking for a space. And I feel like back in December, when I saw this space for the first time, I planted that seed, right? I was like, this is my visual of what I want. I said something to Andrea. I was like, I'm looking for a space if you know of anything. And she was like, yeah, okay, I'll keep my ears open. So she was like, oh my God, you were looking for a space. Let me text my boss to see if you can arrange a meeting. We met the next day. Everything, Micah, down to the number, the lease, the square footage, everything available was 100% perfect. I needed a display, I needed a kitchen for my studio, and I needed a bar for what I have now is called the Candle Creation Bar. And then my two workmates are also in there. So we're all three renting the space, leasing it month to month. So pretty risk-free. The rent is pretty low. It's totally manageable. And we're just doing it. Like there was no build out or anything. And we set it up in this way where COVID actually works in our favor with this, because our hours aren't super consistent. The bar has 4 seats, so people come in and make their candles, set their intentions and affirmations, 4 people at a time. I have my studio in there, so I'm always busy. And I have a little display for people to come in and pick out their candles and smell them, and I can meet my customers, and everyone is like very happy and it's good and it's working. So that's what's new in my world as of September.
Oh my gosh, Leslie, it's so cool. You know, I really want to ring the bell on so many things here, but first, you know, I remember talking with you. We started talking about doing this interview a few months ago. And I remember hearing you say, I'm opening a store. And it was literally like in the middle of COVID, like starting retail at that time did not make any logical sense, like not any, right? But the power and the magic of following what we want, like I have watched it in my own journey as a business owner create magic like over and over and over and over. But it is so scary to like risk, like in the face of nothing making sense. For example, to start, like very extreme example, like start a retail store in the middle of COVID, like does not make any logical sense. And yet you had a desire to be in connection and to be in community and to be with your customers in the flesh. And like you followed that desire and like magic happened, and you're a brand new retail store thriving in the midst of a retail pandemic.
Yep.
So powerful.
Crazy. And, you know, and there's so many lessons to learn in this, because I used to be a person who doubted myself a lot and took that information like, this is insane. Why would anybody open a retail shop when we're in like a nationwide shutdown? Like, why would I do that? Why would I risk that? You know, and it's taking that outside voice and saying, you know what, you could make this work in your own little special way with the COVID guidelines, with everyone feeling really safe. Like you can do it because you've been given this thing that you wanted. And thank goodness you didn't get a space last January, because that would have been horrible, you know, because all retail was shut down for months, you know. And it was just the perfect time right before the holiday season. Like it gave us enough time to move in, and it just felt right. You know, regardless of what was going on out there, it just felt right in here. So we just went for it, and it's working.
So beautiful. Oh my gosh. I'm curious. What was your relationship to like numbers and like a revenue model before we worked together? And like, what was it like as you started your store? Like, did you already have those skills when we worked together? Or was that something that changed? And did you use that specific number crunching skill set in creating your store?
So I remember, and I think I was working with Elizabeth on this. So the section, the revenue section in WINC, I was having a very hard time with that section. Spreadsheets, math, I was I remember just trying so hard, like chugging coffee, like trying not to glaze over, right? And also, I believe it was me and maybe one or two other people in my program who actually had a product. So I was having to, look at a spreadsheet from a service perspective. And I think I remember reaching out to Elizabeth and being like, I can't, product and service is so different, so I'm having a hard time understanding this. And she went through some stuff with me, which was helpful. And in a combination of that, with working with an accountant who actually educates me now and answers like all of my weird kind of dumb questions, she has taught me, and I still am not super clear because math and spreadsheets just aren't my thing, and I still need a lot of education around it, and hand-holding for sure. And I, to give a short answer to your question, it all is kind of messy, but when I look at it at the end of the year, and I actually have a bookkeeping program now, which helps me, set goals and actually see where my money is coming from and where it's going. So that piece is really helpful, which I think is super in alignment with the chart that we do in the WINC program as well. So with plugging in numbers, the short answer is no, I did not do that, but I'm tracking it in kind of like this hodgepodgey way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, I love that you're, we all are unique in terms of where our gifts are and our, kind of liabilities, et cetera. And so, not everybody is going to jive with spreadsheets and numbers, right? Or just like numbers in spreadsheets. But what I love about what you're sharing is that in the face of that, you have found ways to bring in, a mentor and support and someone who can, answer your questions as they come up, and like software that like makes more sense to you, such that it might not be, a revenue model per se, but it sounds like you're pretty in relationship with the numbers of your business.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is extremely empowering,
Yes.
which is something that, going into WINC, I remember that when we don't know how much we're making and how much we're spending or how much we need to, for our personal expenses, then I feel like with that lack of knowledge comes scarcity mindset.
Totally.
And that's, my personal experience. And I feel like other people feel that anyways. There's always like this not enough fear, but you don't actually have a gauge on what is enough.
Yeah.
And I grew up in that household too. There is no gauge on what is enough. It was always more, 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 when you don't even really know how much you have or how much you need. So therefore you're like, I just have to hoard, I have to hoard money. I have to always want more. And you see your numbers, which I recommend that everyone gets a bookkeeping program. And I hired a bookkeeper to kind of tell me, what these numbers actually mean. And now I can like set goals. And when I reach that goal, I can go, cool. I can like sit back for a minute and not just keep on like pushing harder and harder,
You can celebrate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally. So true. I mean, when we don't know how much we're spending and how much we need, for our personal life, and how much we need to make in order to pay for the business and to pay for ourselves, and we just don't know what's going on financially, regardless of whether we're better off than we fear or worse off than we fear, we often are losing so much energy from the uncertainty.
Yes.
It's like the not knowing.
Yes.
Besides just like being in a healthy financial situation with like some security and some comfort, etc., our numbers tracking our numbers is how we make it's a really important part of making decisions. Yes. Right? It's like, do I go on vacation? Well, it's like the answer is partly in the numbers, right? Yes. Do I create a store? Well, the answer is partly in the numbers. Like, do I, add a new product line? Well, the answer is partly in the numbers. And it's like, it's so empowering to be able to make those decisions in like healthy, clear, realistic, responsible ways that actually make our dreams come true,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I'm so happy that you are, you know, have totally found your way as not a numbers girl, sort of, so to speak, and being really empowered in this domain. Like,
Thank
I
you.
personally assess that that is a massive part of what has helped you grow your business the last couple of years.
I agree. I agree. And, you know, I've gotten to the point where it's like when you can't do something or understand something on your own, you hire someone to either do it for you or help you understand it, or even better, both, you know?
Yeah.
And that also comes with spending money, because I paid my bookkeeper and my accountant a ton of money, right? But it's worth it in the end for me to go, oh, I actually can afford this, rather than saying, I can't afford that. I can't afford a vacation. I can't afford a bookkeeper. That's extra, extra. It's like, oh no, I can't afford that. And
Mhm.
you see it in the numbers, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I'm just riffing for a moment because it's like, I am so close to the numbers in my life and in my business. And so I have really developed skills there, and I'm very responsible. I'm very in relationship with all the numbers, and I track them and I look at them and I make decisions from them. So that's all true. But then there's this other side of money and numbers that is like mystical and magical. And like they actually go together, right? For me, they go together. It's not like because I have spreadsheets and I track the numbers that like magic and intuition and manifestation in these totally non-linear ways is not equally as important. It is.
Yes,
Um,
I
and
agree.
there are moments, like I'm in a moment right now, like your store probably was a little bit like that, but I'm in a moment right now where I'm leaping and I'm like making a big spend just because I want to, like just because it feels good. Like my birthday is coming up and I'm renting this gorgeous farmhouse and like doing this whole art project and bringing in a team to like walk through this threshold in my life, and there's no like need, right? It just is like, it just feels exciting and good, and it's also like terrifying, right? But
Mhm.
there's something about tracking the numbers regularly that
Mhm.
allows that moment of leaping to feel more rightful.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think these big sends and these big celebrations, like those are the things where you're like, oh my gosh, can I do this? I think I can do it. And like those jitters and that fear, like I,
Totally.
that's like, I think that's the feeling of just excitement and like this is right and it's huge and I'm doing it, you know? And
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you're giving yourself that, because it's so well deserved. And it comes through the empowerment of knowing those numbers, the awareness, and spending the money to get those to educate you and help you organize if you can't do it yourself, to lead to this freedom and empowerment, which I think all of us business owners want. That's all we want. That's why we're doing what we're doing, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, we can have the most successful business in the world, but if we don't have joy and celebration and things that we just are doing for fun and like,
What's the point? Yeah.
oh my gosh, amazing. So I want to talk with you about one more thing. But first, I want to make sure that everyone knows like how to find you, and if you have any, special little offer that you want to share with our audience today.
Um, my store is in Northeast, and you can find all that information on the website. And so, a big part of my business, especially this year, is custom gifting. And because all of the candles have I am statements on it, they're extra thoughtful, right? So when it comes to gratitude or following your bliss, you know, we have candles for that. And I work with a lot of other business owners who create gift sets or, you know, client gifts and things like that. So what I want to offer you is if you are a business owner and you need some gifts for your clients or customers or, you know, anybody who's supported you on your journey, I want to offer you 50% off of the candles. So for example, our 4-ounce candle is $12 normally. You get it for $6. And the only thing is you have to spend at least $100. So that's like 17 candles to gift your clients. So I want to offer you that 50% off if you need gifts for anybody who's just supported you and you feel grateful for.
That's so cool. I love that. And it's also like the original code of your own business. It's like where this all started from. So I love that other business owners get to share the gratitude with people, allies, customers in their lives. And also in the spirit of like real, like just the whole spirit of entrepreneurship that this candle and company comes from. So
Yes,
cool.
my pleasure.
Beautiful. So just for the last couple of minutes here, I just want to talk with you because I feel like a lot of women who have this in their business really struggle with seasonal fluctuations, and probably especially physical product producers and some service-based businesses too. And so I know that a big part of your business happens in the fall every year leading up to Christmas. And so you have this big seasonal fluctuation. You know, we teach a financial foundation course where we show how we recommend how to deal with seasonal fluctuations, but you've been in the trenches living it day in and day out. And I'm just wondering, what have you found that really helps you even out your like how your business pays you throughout the year, given the seasonal volatility?
Yeah, such a great question. So my husband and I, as I mentioned earlier, we started seeing a financial advisor a few years ago, and I had asked her the same question. I'm like, how do I deal with, you know, inconsistencies, like those months where I'm making $1,000 and then those months where I'm making $10,000? Like, how do I pay myself, you know? And she said, you pay yourself the same amount regardless of the season, you know, and this also comes on the back end, like, how much do I need? Asking yourself that question and setting the goals to make a certain amount, to pay yourself a certain amount, and then have some in the bank left over. Yeah. So that's what I've done for the last like 3-4 years. I pay myself the same amount every single month, regardless of if it's, you know, February or December. And another thing too is, so my slow season is summer. Candles in the summertime in Portland, like not really a thing. So I've had to get really, really creative on like, well, what is a thing in the summer? Weddings, right? So this is where marketing comes in, where you're like, okay, what are people buying in the summer? Well, people are getting married, not this summer, but people are getting married. So I can create this whole like marketing around like wedding gifts for your guests or for your bridesmaids or whoever.
Your dinner table or.
Yes. And then, you know, traveling. So there are some things that you can do to kind of balance out your income. But if you are truly a seasonal and you're like, oh, I make all of my money in the last like 4 months of the year, then again, like spread it out, pay yourself the same amount. Also, I feel like this year I really nailed it in the summer. So normally I'd have like these freak out sessions in the summer. I'd be like, oh my God, July is like the slowest month of the year for me. It's also the best month to travel, right? And summers in Portland, if anybody's been out here in the summer, it is like the most dreamiest time. Everyone is just playing and traveling and camping and on the water, and we soak it up until the crappy winter, you know, and then it's like time to put your head down and get to work. So I feel like I've really embraced the slow summer this year because I've been able to spread my money out from this really busy last 4 months of the year, the fourth quarter. I'm able to actually kick back and rest a little bit for about 3-4 months, while still making some money, not a ton, but still paying myself the same thing. But the revenue from the business is pretty low or inconsistent. So yeah, those are my two pieces of advice. And again, being empowered by the numbers, so you don't have a freak out session during your slow months, right?
Yeah, amazing, Leslie. Amazing. I love that. Yeah, so I'm really glad to hear that you're financial, because I'm not a formal financial planner or advisor. I don't have the credentials for that, but I'm really glad to hear that that was their professional advice. That's what I've always done too.
Cool.
And it's like, I go years on the same exact salary, and I have spreadsheets that basically make sure that I know how much I need personally in order to know what I need to get paid for my business, to meet my expenses. And then spreadsheets that calculate every single month what my revenue is, what my expenses are at the business level, and then siphon off whatever is surplus into a specific savings account so that I can even out my salary in low months,
Cool.
And so I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Do you use a bookkeeping, or do you do what you just explained, like as your bookkeeping for the most part?
I've used, one of the first things I did as a business owner was set up QuickBooks. So I've been using QuickBooks, for 10 years. And initially I taught myself to do it. So I did all my own bookkeeping and just like had somebody that I asked for help when I had a question. And now I have a team that I train to do our bookkeeping. So awesome. We do our bookkeeping in-house. But there are things that QuickBooks actually does, but the way that it does it, I just either don't understand. Like, I just don't like the way the software does certain things. So, and then most importantly, when it comes to cash flow, like our QuickBooks are only up to date on the day that it's reconciled. Mm-hmm. And that's for the last month, right? And so throughout the rest of the month, as sales are coming in, I want to be able to know every single day, like where we're at this month.
Yeah.
And so I use spreadsheets for tracking our cash flow to make sure I have like that on the dime, like intel.
Cool.
And then I use that same spreadsheet for cash flow. And I teach all of this in the Financial Foundation course. I use that same spreadsheet for identifying every month, like what I siphon off for taxes, all of our different savings amounts, because it's all based on gross revenue.
Yeah.
So that's, it's kind of a combination, but we use accounting software religiously.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Yeah.
What about you?
So I used QuickBooks for a couple of years, and I totally messed it up and wasted my money on it. And I got so upset with it that I just quit and found this new program called Wave. Yeah, it's actually free. And the user ability and interface feels a lot easier to me than QuickBooks.
Right.
Yeah, I don't love the invoicing, but my issue was the reconciling. That was where I was getting stuck. So I've hired now a bookkeeper who does all of that for me, and gets the categories like set to where it's understandable for my accountant, and not like these hodgepodgey, like weird categories that I made up myself, So yeah, that's what I do.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for modeling that as a maker, as a woman, as someone who, is more artistic and maybe right-brained and like doesn't like the numbers, and yet has found her systems and her mentors to be really empowered in this domain. So cool, Leslie.
Thank you. Thank you for being one of my mentors. And I love, when I moved to Portland, I have a really awesome community here now, but when I first moved here, I did not. And I was really craving it. And I felt like WINC, even though you weren't in my exact city, but I felt like that was a community and a business community that really grounded me and helped me kind of launch from this space of like, oh, this is all new and I kind of don't know what I'm doing once again, you know? And so thank you for being that community and platform for me. I'm so grateful.
Thank you, Leslie. We're so grateful too. We just are so honored to be part of your journey, and we just adore you. And we are so excited to share Yo Soy Candle with all of our WINC sisters and all of our community from here on out. So thank you for making this time to be with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Much love.
Much love.
Listen to your heart and follow. Listen to your heart and follow. Listen to your heart and follow. Listen.